You guys all love AGDQ memes, right? Chibi Necodemics, the Crash 2 guy, the country of Germany. Wow, all so iconic and funny. I love saying E. But what's a more iconic meme than Save the Animals in regards to Super Metroid? Remember that, everybody? We all love oats and goats, right? Anyway, what is up with those animals? You know, the animals, the Etecoons and Dachoras. Let's talk about them. No, I haven't completely run out of topics. I promise you this is an interesting question, and a lot of Metroid fans will probably know where I'm going with this. So, let me lead you through it before we get into some true Planet Zebes gas leak content later in this video. In Super Metroid, on a revisit to Brinstar, you might encounter these funny little monkey fellas. This is delightfully described in Yoshio Sakamoto's storyboards as Samus falls into hell. They teach you through action alone and with no tutorial text or even a new item that all along you had within you the ability to wall jump. Now, of course, in the modern day, any fucking clod that knows the bare minimum about Super Metroid knows about the wall jump. In fact, the meta is so advanced that I find myself so lost in the sauce that I sometimes think, oh yeah, you're supposed to jump between two walls and not just vertically ascend a single wall. All the way back on the Super Nintendo, though, before there was even a Speed Demos archive, these blue little party animals were your only hint about this. Same goes for the Dachoras. The Shine Spark, one of the most memorable and flat-out coolest abilities in Metroid history, is actually a hidden secondary ability of the Speed Booster that you learn from watching this freak bird do her thing. But this is not really the most interesting part about these guys. Okay, yes, I mean, it is the most relevant part on a game design level. It's really cool to have these kind of chance encounters teach you hidden mechanics that you can use at any part during any other playthrough, but it's not the relevant part to my insane video. The infamous Save the Animals finds its origin at the very end of the game. During the final escape in Super Metroid, if you decide, for whatever reason, to take a detour in Criteria before getting to your ship and go to the same room where you got the bombs at the very beginning of the game, what will be there to greet you but both the Etecoons and the Dachora? Then, if you are so inclined, you can shoot the previously non-destructible wall with the Hyper Beam, and it breaks it, revealing an escape route that you can't use, but these critters can. Let me just mention here, I love the added detail of when you blow the wall open, one of the Etecoons approaches you kindly to kind of give you its thanks. It's so cute and interesting, but also like totally unnecessary. This whole set piece is unnecessary. It's frankly deranged to expect anybody would do this without foreknowledge. I know it took me until I watched AGDQ in like 2014 to find out that this was even a thing. That's just the sauce that Super Metroid has, though. Don't worry, we'll dig more into that in a later video titled Why Super Metroid is Just Actually the Best One. There is one more wrinkle, dear viewer. How in the hell is blowing up a wall saving the animals when the entire planet is about to explode? We aren't given any indication that they hitch a ride on Samus's gunship or something like that, so what happens? Well, you might want to sit down when you watch this. I am sorry, but what the fuck just happened? See that tiny little pixel? One that's probably completely invisible on a CRT in 1994? That's the Etecoons and Dachora leaving Zebes through some alternative means to your gunship? How do we know this? Well, a few of the devs, including Metroid lore master Yoshio Sakamoto himself, confirmed it. While it was obviously in the game since the 90s, it only became really notable much later when higher resolution screens could pick out extremely slight changes in the ending. This alone is odd. It's actually very odd and very interesting that it's something that they felt to include and draw attention to multiple times after the fact, but it is still not the full story. Why is that? Well, buddy, there's another game that came out after Super Metroid, one whose canonicity is based on doing this extremely obscure alternate ending. A further instigator of the vicious fight between saving the animals or the frames, Metroid Fusion. About halfway through Fusion, Adam, the computer, tasks you with finding a surprise life signature detected on one of the upper decks of the BSL. After a small puzzle room, you find in the habitation deck, wouldn't you know it, Etecoons and Dachoras, plural. Somehow, they avoided contact with the X-parasites. I mean, I guess the X can't get through the security doors, but the green doors have been unlocked for a while now. Wait a minute, how the fuck did they even get onto this station? Were they here the whole time? If so, why did the BSL researchers find them? Why did Adam only detect them now? Do the doors block his signal? Doesn't he have full access to the station's computer? Hold on, yeah, Adam is privy to information regarding the true nature of BSL that Samus isn't. He knows there are Metroids being bred in the restricted area, but has no idea what these things are. Adam says they must have avoided being eaten thanks to being unsuited for battle, but you're telling me Rippers are suited for battle? We know the X can mutate harmless organisms into giant monsters pretty easily. Something is very fishy here. Maybe if they arrive after you, they could have avoided the X, but that's impossible, right? It's not like they can fly a ship or something. So in the climax of Metroid Fusion, it's revealed that they can operate your gunship. What? You didn't have to cut me off. So before we dive deep down into hell, just like Samus along with the Etecoons, let's instead try to think this through with purely information that we are given. Like I mentioned before, Adam says these creatures are unsuited for battle and therefore were passed over by the X. I find that explanation pretty flimsy, but hey, why not take him on his word here? They survived through sheer luck and apathy, despite the parasites carving a warpath through the entire station as efficiently as possible. Narrative contrivances happen. It's all good. How did they arrive here? Well, it's a research station funded by the Galactic Federation. Not even bringing in the amazingly redundant plot of Other M into this whole mess, but it seems pretty easy to assume that they've had researchers on planet Zebes during the time of Super Metroid. They found the animals at the last second and shepherded them aboard their ship, along with plenty of other Zebes fauna that ended up on the BSL, including Zebesians and Key Hunters, which we know are sapient organisms, so it's a little fucked up that they were doing experiments on them, but let's not dwell on that. Yes, this all seems like the opposite of Occam's razor in that it requires a lot of other assumptions, but trust me, the other options I'm going to go into are more absurd. I'd say this idea feels like it could be the most correct at a glance. It actually seems like it pretty easily fills in this bizarre plot hole without too much in terms of WTF factor, beyond the ending of the game, of course. I'd say it's kind of like they intended this as the explanation and then never really addressed it. They got off Zebes on a spaceship purely because another team besides you rescued them. How do we explain that ending, though, where it's 100% implied that they could pilot your ship? Dumb luck? Like them avoiding being consumed by the X? Definitely a stretch, but I guess I can see it if I squint hard enough. But come on, that's not what I'm here to talk about. You know what I'm here to do. Let's dive deeper into hell, shall we? What if these wild little freaks we all love so much are actually intelligent? What if we go even deeper than that? So, The Metroid universe is no stranger to hyper-intelligent species. The Chozo are the most notable, and it's said that they once had a galaxy-spanning civilization long before their decline. We see relics of this all over the games, and their influence on other worlds in the Prime series. Now, I'm not really going to try to use Prime as an example in this. While I don't think it's a completely separate continuity or anything, the main games do not acknowledge them at all, beyond one possible reference in Samus Returns, wherein Proteus Ridley kinda looks like Meta Ridley. Anyway, my point is that even ignoring Aether or Bria or possibly Viros, it's no doubt that the Chozo at least made contact with countless worlds in their golden age, and it seems unlikely that beings that traveled an entire galaxy never came across beings of a similar level to them. I think maybe these creatures, the animals, are that. Okay, take a break here, not to get all deep time on you, but galaxies are really, really fucking old. The idea that the Chozo had been ruling a galaxy, even for tens of millennia or hundreds of millennia, is pathetically short. I am basically proposing a version of the Silurian hypothesis. That is, the idea that intelligent life arose before humans on Earth and came and went long before we did, but on a galactic scale. All evidence of their existence has faded, except in the most remote parts of space, but the few that remain haunt the graveyards of their fallen successors. Let's go over some evidence of this before I try to wrap a bow on it. These things are on Zebes, but with very little indication that they naturally live there. They are able to teach Samus hidden abilities within her suit functions. They leave Zebes when it's about to explode and even try to thank Samus before leaving. They do so by possibly flying a spacecraft. They made it to the BSL somehow, avoided all detection from the most dangerous and efficiently predatory organism we have ever encountered in this universe, and even if you think the rest can be explained away with other reasoning, they fly your ship at the end of the game to help you. It's a spaceship. It's not like the orangutan driving a golf cart. This is literally fucking rocket science. So, to lay all my cards on the table, I actually have two sub-theories within this wider the Etecoons and Dachoras are super beings grand theory. First is just the straightforward idea that I talked about before. They had a civilization like the Chozo, perhaps even helped them grow. Maybe they were way before them, but they died out and only remnants exist and nobody knows what they are because records of them don't exist from that time. Or, and this is my favorite and preferred one, they are just funny little guys who are really, really smart for some reason. They exist in a perpetual naturalistic state, never reaching towards true galactic civilization. They exist in harmony with each other and space itself through their empathetic abilities, communicating without words, being able to understand somebody completely with only a small connection. They could fly a ship at the end of Fusion simply because they understood how from meeting Samus and Adam, and the ship at the end of Super Metroid that they escape with, same thing. And it doesn't need to be their ship, it could have been a Zebesian one. And their ability to not be consumed by the X's, simply having the ability to not be perceived. Maybe even telling the parasites to go elsewhere. Maybe it's how they've kept a low profile after all these millennia. As grand as it's made out to be, the Chozo's rule was fleeting, like all empires. They didn't initially come as peace bearers. They came as warlords and brutal fascists that believed in nothing but power. Once this decline began, their birth rates dropped. They lost their abilities like flight, only the Machkin remained to keep the old ways alive, as the Thoha tried their best to make the universe a better place for having them in it. For their reflection and grace, their only reward was destruction at the hands of this lost warrior tribe. But it was mutual destruction, and the Machkin suffered a pathetic and slow death trying to rebuild that lost glory. Meanwhile, these creatures, these animals, have existed long before, and they'll exist long after the Chozo or even the humans. Maybe they're a relic of the past, but by existing for the sake of existing, and not to conquer or meddle or enlighten or even try to understand, they act as a far brighter beacon of light than the Birdman race ever could have. Just by being cool little guys who like to jump on walls and break ceilings. Alright, I think that's all I gotta say. I do want to clarify that this is all speculation. While I do think there is something very curious about these creatures, I'm not sure I 100% expect them to ever explain what the fuck their deal is. Not just because it would ruin the magic and mystery, but because there is a fine chance that they never even thought of anything, or they did and it's completely different from my Cosmic Star Child theorizing. But clearly, I have a lot of thoughts about the nature of the universe in this series, and am especially compelled by the Chozo's place in it as the de facto arbiters of knowledge. The point is, I really love the idea of a series with endless layers of mystery about its past. It's why I love that in Hollow Knight there was another, even older civilization that lived in Hollow Nest before the Pale King, and we know next to nothing about them besides their worship of Void. I like to think that beyond the veil of history is a deeper history than we could ever imagine. And no, that doesn't mean Atlantis was real or that aliens built the pyramids with psychic powers. Just that there is an odd comfort in knowing that not only are we not alone, but we were never alone and will never be alone. And that's what these blue monkeys mean to me. Save the animals, baby!